from there, just basically going over the quotes, my quote, and then I'll go and present a quote that was given by somebody else who knows a lot more about these things than I do, and then I'll explain it a little bit deeper for everybody concerned. Anybody have any questions? Does that sound cool? Awesome. Okay. So the first thing that we have on the page is my belief, very firm belief, that the ultimate goal of a leader is to make more leaders. And a lot of people don't understand that because they're too driven by ego to understand that, hey, their company and the people around them depend on more than just them. Okay. Just because you can finish a job or a project on time and on budget and do it consistently might mean you might be a leader, but it doesn't mean that you're that valuable or to the organization. And I present it to you this way: if you get hit by a bus tomorrow and there's nobody to take your place because you didn't groom anybody to take your place, then your company's sunk, and everybody who's been depending on you to get these projects done on time and on budget are potentially out of jobs. So your job as a leader, as a project manager, is to groom other people in your team and to extract from them, get them out of their comfort zone, extract from them capabilities they didn't know they had. And so that if, God forbid, you do get hit by a bus, then somebody else is there to fill in the slack, and you're able to, the company and the organization that you work for is able to continue. So Lao Tzu, what he said, he was a famous philosopher from the Far East, said, "A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, 'We did it ourselves.'" So a true leader is basically not running over the bus. A true leader is someone who's doing it for the team. Okay, they put the team first, they put the company first, and they move forward from that direction. Okay, so good project managers, the best project managers, as I said in my previous presentation, they put their egos in their pockets and then they get the job done. Okay, and then let the team take the credit. Any questions about that one? Yes, it definitely has to be a bus. The bigger, the better. I like those reticulating ones. All right, that are two parts that bend in the middle, so you get run over like several times. Okay. All right. So moving on. Something that I covered in my last presentation is Dwight Eisenhower, who basically saved the human race from Hitler and so forth. Basically said, plans are nothing and planning is everything. Okay, and as I explained in my previous presentation, plans are nothing because change is inevitable. Okay, and as far as planning is everything, well, if you don't have a plan, then how can you control change? And as you can imagine, a war situation that covers multiple continents, not just countrysides or parts of countries or regions. We're talking World War II was the world. Okay, the entire planet was embroiled in in the war. So Eisenhower comes along and basically says, we have a plan and we control change, which you can imagine the kind of change that's going on with bullets and missiles and rockets and everything else flying all over the place. Well, maybe not so much missiles, except for Germany. So in any case, you got to be able to control change. And so when I say, or one of the things that I espouse is proper planning prevents poor project performance. Basically what you're doing is you're preparing yourself for handling change. That's the key thing that a project manager does. Okay. Um, the next thing is I always tell people everything is flexible. Okay. A proper plan is not written in stone. Okay. If you're writing your plans in stone, then you're an idiot because change will make that plan obsolete almost tomorrow. Okay. The next day. So what you need to do is you need to have a plan for the plan, so to speak. Because as change happens, you need to have policies and procedures in place in order to handle that change. Okay. So you need to be flexible. And yes, there are four primary constraints of scope, schedule, cost, and quality. Those are constraints, and typically they don't change, but they can change, and you need to be able to be flexible. Bruce Lee famously said that notice that the stiffest tree is the most easily cracked, while the bamboo or willow survives by bending with the wind. So if you want to survive as a business, as a studio, or any other organization that you're in, you need to be able to be flexible. Okay. Um, and then, as I said before, change is inevitable, resistance is futile. Uh, Murphy's Law. Murphy loves planners. Murphy's Law is if anything's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong at the worst possible time in the worst possible place. And they love planner. Murphy's Law loves planners more than anything else. Okay. So it's going to happen. So resisting it is futile. It's just going to happen. What you need to do is you need to control that change, because if you don't control change, it will control you, just like your ego. If you don't control your ego, it will control you. So, so basically, by having a plan and the policies and procedures in place to basically develop to handle change allows you the ability to take advantage of opportunities and handle threats. Winston Churchill famously said, "To improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often." Okay, and he's the guy that basically helped lead the United Britain out of World War II successfully. Man, they were getting rained on, literally rained on by bombs from and missiles and rockets from Germany towards the end of the war. Um, Other things that I say with regard to the ego, well, my students, their favorite one is lose the ego or lose the project. That's just the way it is. I mean, an ego and an open mind are mutually exclusive. If you have, this is the game I'm going to make, and this is the way I'm going to make it, and everybody's got to do what I do, and it's my way or the highway. Well, good luck, okay? Because it's just you're not going to be very successful. Yes, there are people out there. I won't name names, but we all have our favorite egotist. Are out there and they're successful and so forth. But, those people are more forces of nature than anything else. And I would imagine, even though I don't know them, that their ego isn't as great. I think maybe it's an act, but we'll see. But in any case, you if you have an ego and it's your way or the highway, and your mind is closed, then what happens when change occurs? And change basically takes your plan and throws it out the window. It happens. And what you need to do is you need to have policies and procedures in place so you can say, okay, this change, so your game designer can say, okay, this change happened. What do we do about it? Well, do we want to add scope? Do we want to add some more features to this game? Do we want to add? Do we want to change the physics, or do we have to go to a lower poly count? What are we going to do? Okay, if you don't have that ability to do that, then you're sunk. Okay, and that's a large reason why projects fail. And Bertrand Russell, a great philosopher and philanthropist, said, "The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts." Okay? So don't be so damn certain about yourself. It's okay. All right? be open to taking risks and be open to being flexible, and get that ego out of the way, because nobody likes an ass, because that's what ego people are like. That basically leads me to rule number 6. Now, rule number 6 is probably my students' favorite thing, and I'm going to quote. This is from, I got this originally from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who was a self-help guru, and talked all sorts of great things, and that I apply in project management in my daily life. And Rosamond and Benjamin Zander. Benjamin Zander was a famous, shall I say, conductor of a philharmonic orchestra. I think it was Philadelphia. And so him and his wife wrote rule number 6. So I'll explain it. Rule number 6. Imagine you're a head of state. You're a president, or you're a prime minister of a country, and you're visiting another head of state. So the two of you are sitting in the office talking about the world and your part in it. And all of a sudden the door bursts open and a guy comes running in, apoplectic, tie flying, everything spit flying. Oh, these guys are putting tanks on the border, and all these people are doing this, and they're riding here, blah, blah, blah. And then your guest or your host says, Andrew, or whatever your name is, please remember rule number 6. And then Andrew stops and he takes a deep breath, and he smooths out his hair and tucks his shirt into his pants. And I'm so sorry. Forgive me, minister. I don't know what came over me. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I'll have I won't interrupt, and I'll make sure that you have a brief when you're finished with your meeting. Thank you for reminding me. And you out the door. So I don't know about y'all, but if I'm sitting there, I'd be like, okay, that was interesting, right? And then so you continue your conversation. About 40 minutes later, the door bursts open. A woman bursts in. Oh, crazy. Oh, they're reneging on their negotiations, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and he says, Alice, kindly remember rule number 6. And so Alice, thank you, sir. And she straightens her blouse and her hair and everything, and she, gets back to being demure and, professional. And sorry about that. I will, I'll make sure I bring you up to speed once things get rolling, and please carry on with your conversation. She goes out the door. So now I'd be thinking, okay, now that's really interesting, So after the third time it happens, you sit there and go, WTF, what is rule number 6? And then he tells you rule number 6 is, don't take yourself so damn seriously. And you go, okay, don't take myself so seriously. Okay, I get it. That's cool. What are the other 5 rules? There aren't any. So don't take yourself too seriously. Life is too short. Okay? Just enjoy what you do what you love and love what you do, and make great games. Don't be offended by stuff. Honestly, if you're looking to be offended about stuff all the time, that's a miserable existence. So, just be cool, enjoy. All right? If you're wrong about stuff, be wrong. It's okay. It's an opportunity to learn to not be wrong the next time. Okay? So, put your ego in your pocket and move on. Mark Twain famously said, never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. And that is true. And because one thing that I also say that's not on this page is the biggest egos come typically from the smallest minds. So because it's like a compensation type of an issue, I guess. So, just don't take yourself so seriously. It's okay. You will grow faster, both emotionally and professionally and financially, if you do as I say, okay, as I suggest. The next thing is related to the first one, of course, and the team comes first, okay? You have to put your team, and this goes for everybody else on the team too, you have to put everyone else on the team before yourself. Okay. You have to do whatever it takes to help the team and the project succeed. Okay. Because when the team succeeds, then the team that you're part of, as a member of the team that succeeds, you will succeed. Okay. What goes around comes around. All right. So Napoleon Hill, who was a famous, he wrote Think and Grow Rich and a bunch of other great books over the years. He said it is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others succeed. So, and one of our mottos in our overriding motto at Burnout Game Ventures is, if you're not helping others, then what the hell good are you? So, put the team first, help everybody else do better. And when you need it, trust me, they'll be there for you. Okay. The next thing is SMART. Now, SMART is something that I came up with, and then other people have come up with stuff too, simultaneously. And so SMART to me is an acronym, stands for specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and timely. Okay, so each one of these things is specific. Specific means you have to provide appropriate detail and context. For example, when somebody, I taught a business planning class for the Small Business Administration for about 6 years, and it was just a little thing that we had on Saturday mornings. And so I'd asked, 30, 40 people in the classroom, so you're here to start why you're writing a business plan. And typically there's somebody in the group who'll say, I want more money. And I'll go to that person and say, so your job, your goal in life is to have more money. Is that right? And he or she says, yeah, that's my goal in life, to have more money. So I take out a dollar bill and I put it in front of them, and I look at the audience and I say, ladies and gentlemen, you have just witnessed something that is very rare. And that is, you have actually seen this individual achieve their lifetime goal right before your very eyes. And everybody claps and, hey, that's great. Awesome. Yeah, good on you, man. Awesome. And he's going, but, and I'm like, what? And he says, well, that's not what I meant. So I snatch my dollar back and I'm like, what do you mean? And he says, well, I didn't want $1. I said, well, you told me you wanted more money. So I just gave you more money. See, what they told you was fluff. Fluff is like cotton candy. You can put a head size amount in your mouth and it disappears in a few seconds and all you get is a buzz. No, it's not steak or anything you can chew and digest and is nutritional for you. Okay. Details, specificity is what you can digest. It's what is good for you. It helps your project grow. Okay. So when creating any document, my rule of thumb is you've got to assume that whoever's reading that document that you're writing, that plan, those policies and procedure, anything else, you have to assume that whoever reads it is a blithering idiot. Okay. So if they can understand it and use it, anybody can. Okay. And the corollary to that is, when in doubt, add detail. Okay. So, and that addresses intuition. Okay. You have to listen to your intuition. And, if the little voice inside your head, if you're working on something and you're like, not sure about this. Well, as we said in the last presentation, ask questions. When in doubt, ask questions. Okay. That's how you add detail. So don't assume. So that's the specific and SMART, the S in SMART. The next thing is measurable. It goes hand in hand with being specific. If you're going to be specific, then you need to be able to measure those specifics. Okay. Somebody asked earlier in the other presentation about how do we measure quality. Well, if you don't set up metrics, okay, to measure the quality of your project, things like polygon counts and frame rates and number of sprites, or whatever else that you decide that you need to keep track of, then how do you know you're there? If you sit there and say we want 60 FPS for our game, and you don't know how to measure it, and you haven't set it up to be measured, then how do you know you've achieved it? You don't. So if you don't know where you are, how the hell do you know where you're going? So that's why you need to be measurable and set up targets and metrics for you to be able to measure how well you're achieving the quality, and your quality is how well you're achieving your requirements. The next thing is accountability. That's the A in SMART. Basically, if a task isn't owned, it doesn't get done. So when you do a capacity plan or a work breakdown structure or anything like that, you need to make sure that every single task has somebody's name on it. They own it. Okay. They don't necessarily have to be doing that task, but typically in small teams they are. But they have to own it. Okay. So when they own it, then you can go to them and say, okay, it was due last night. Where is it? Okay. If they own it, then you get their excuse, but then you say, okay, well, I want it today. If I don't have it today, whatever. Okay. You can dock them based on your policies and procedures that you already put in place for that. But every task must have an owner, okay, to make sure it gets done. So that's the A in accountability. The R in SMART is realistic. Okay, guys, you gotta set goals that are achievable. Okay, don't sit there and say I'm going to make a Destiny type game with me and my buddy. When we have high school educations and we're going to do it in 6 months. That's just not realistic. So you have to sit there and say, okay, set goals that you can achieve, set up the policies and procedures that you'll follow to guarantee reaching those goals, and then just do it. Simple, just do it. And I admit it takes a lot of self-discipline to be able to doing these things. But there's a huge difference between playing games and making them, and there's a huge, even bigger difference between making them and making a business making them. Okay, and that all depends on your level of self-discipline. So be realistic about your capabilities and the capabilities of your team. If you find some weaknesses, then fill in those weaknesses. Okay, but be realistic. Because smart goals equal better opportunities, and we all like opportunities, but they don't just fall in your lap. Though I realize sometimes I say the harder I work, the luckier I get. But yeah, be realistic in everything. So the T in SMART is timely. Okay, don't wait and don't make other people wait. Okay, if somebody on your team needs something, then you need to get it to them when they need it. Period. Okay. Let me ask you this: you're running a company, right? And you're paying people $20 an hour, and somebody comes up with a solution to a problem that can save you can save you $1,000, and then they wait a week and a half to tell you, you just lost $1,000. So that's not being timely. Okay, you need to make sure that as you are planning things, your policies and procedures say, if you come up with a solution that's going to help the team, make it immediately known to the team. And then your communications PMP will basically say, well, we use Skype or Snapchat or Trello or whatever that you use, or Handsoft or whatever, to communicate. Okay, so SMART: specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and timely. As far as what other people have said to support these things, what I really like about specific is specific doesn't necessarily mean complex. Okay, and what Einstein said, everybody knows who Einstein is. He says, if you cannot explain something simply, you just don't understand it well enough. So if somebody asks you about the game you're working on and you cannot explain it to them in 10 seconds, then you don't know your game well enough. Okay. And then that should generate some questions, and then you can turn around those questions and give them your 30, that was your elevator speech. Now you can give them your social pitch, and then if they ask for more information, you can give them your capstone pitch, and so on and so forth. Now, one of my favorite musicians, Charlie Mingus, who is just the most badass bass player, he once said that creativity is more than just being different. He says anybody can plan weird. That's easy. What's hard is to be as simple as Bach. He says making the simple awesomely simple, that's creativity. Okay. So what I tell people and explain to them, I say, look, let's say you have a goal. Your goal is to make a first-person shooter. And then you say, okay, what are my milestones to that goal? So you break down those milestones. The milestones are typically going to be your prototype, vertical slice. It's going to be your alpha, your beta, your gold, and your shipping. Okay, well, usually the same. So then you break those down into all the tasks that you need to have take place in order to achieve those milestones. And then you start breaking it down even further and even further and even further. I worked on a project once where, we used an Excel spreadsheet, and it was a space related thing, space as in the Final Frontier type thing. And you have your columns in Excel. You have A, B, C, D, E, right? We broke things down until we reached CA. In other words, we had 76 levels of detail. Okay. So if anybody had any questions about it, and each one of those rows and tasks had an owner, a time for it to start, a duration, how long it would take, a time it ends, all the resources that are being used, and links to all the policies and procedures involved to make sure that everybody's literally on the same page. And so when you look at the whole thing, and you're like, holy shit, that's pretty complex, right? But when you look at just one of those things, and you look at, oh, this is the task, this is what it means, this is the person in charge, blah blah blah, it's damn simple. Okay, so that takes creativity on the management side of things to be able to break things down to that level. You don't have to go 76 levels. You can just go 2 or 3. Whatever works. Okay, so use that creativity to break things down in an appreciable manner, so everybody can is encouraged to stay literally on the same page. On the timely side of things, Napoleon Hill also said, "Don't wait." He said, "The time will never be just right." Okay, so it's like that game. It's got to be perfect. I can't release it. Nobody's going to like it. Bullshit. Just know what your vertical slice is, and then do it. Get it done, and then get it in front of your customers and let them give you feedback and start generating revenues. And then just come up with a patch or version 2, right? And in the meantime, you've made the game, you've released it, you can wave that feather in your hat to everybody, and you can generate some revenues if you're marketing it right, and you're on your way. Okay. Otherwise, you're sitting in a basement, just trying to figure out how to get this game done when it should have been out the door long ago. Okay, so don't wait. The time is never just right. Just do it. Okay. Anybody have any questions right now about what I've covered? Okay, moving on. So the next thing is people don't understand. A lot of people just don't understand management. And it's real simple. Management is simply processes. That's it. It's just processes. Any blithering idiot can understand product. Okay. The problem is that good project managers understand that it's the processes that make that product. Okay. And a wealth of process knowledge can be used to make any product. Okay. You know, I I worked at Gulfstream. I worked at in a couple of different aerospace companies and whatnot. I didn't know anything. I don't have an aerospace degree. I don't know anything about that. But that's not what they wanted. They needed somebody who understood processes. Because once you understand processes, you can manage anybody and any project. Games, augmented railguns, uh, commercial aircraft, private aircraft, high-speed rail, it doesn't matter. As long as you know processes and you're a good project manager, you can make anything. So Eric Thomas, who is a big motivational speaker, said, fall in love with the process and the results will come. Okay. And that is a truism of the highest order. Okay. So management is processes. So just understand those processes. Another thing that I like to say is, and I said it in the last presentation, is if you don't know your road, how fast are you driving? Okay. And as I explained, using policies and procedures and so forth, it's like, being creative and being able to develop that plan, that roadmap, so that you and your team can get you from point A, which is now, to point B, which is a released game that people are buying. Well, if you don't have that road, if you're not smart about that road, specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and timely, then how do you know you've achieved it? How do you know it's there? How do you know you don't? It's all it is at the end, guys, is just a feeling. Oh, it's done now because I enjoy playing it. Nobody else gives a crap, but you enjoy it. It's like Benny Hill, he's famous British comedian. He's being interviewed by somebody for his new movie theater, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's a very popular pricing." He says, "How much are you charging a ticket?" He says, $30. He says, "That's popular pricing," and he goes, "I like it." Guys, that's not selling games. That's not going to sell games. Okay. You need to know your road so you can follow it. And when you get to the end, you'll be successful. Now, a guy by the name of Sir John Harvey Jones, who was a huge industrialist in the UK and philanthropist and so forth, he said, planning is an unnatural process. It is. It's unnatural. Most people just like to shoot from the hip and just do it. They say, just do it, just do it, just do it. And, and like I told you in the last presentation, if you shoot from the hip like that and don't plan sufficiently, just literally throw 50% of your resources, your people's time, the money in your wallet, your savings, everything else, your computer, everything, just throw 50% of it out the window. Just do it now and be done with it. Okay. Because planning is an unnatural process. Okay. Everybody wants to just shoot from the hip and go, but that's why 95% of indie startups fail to make money. So they believe it's much more fun to do something else than to plan. Okay. What he says about the beauty about no planning is that when you fail, it becomes a complete surprise. It's like, holy crap, I just failed. I didn't even see that coming. Okay. And he says, instead, it could be preceded by a period of worry and depression. Okay. Well, that period of worry and depression is the period by which you see from your plan that you're not going to make it, and you've got time now to make amends and to fix things and get back on track. Okay. So he ultimately said failure to plan is planning to fail. And I believe Ben Franklin also said that. So the next thing I like to talk about is, I mentioned earlier, is when you're writing documents, whether it's a capacity plan, a work breakdown structure, a game design doc, a tech design doc, whatever, you have to assume that whoever's reading it is going to be a blithering idiot. Okay. So the best way to do that is provide meat, not fluff. Okay. So fluff, as I said a few minutes ago, is like a head-sized piece of cotton candy. You just scrunch it all up, shove it in your mouth, and then in 10 seconds it's gone, and all you have is a sugar rush. Okay. Whereas if you had a nice, big piece of pizza, whether it's got meat on it or vegetables, or if you're vegan or anything like that, then it's something you can chew, you can digest, it's got nutrition, it's good for you, right? That's what meat. That's what we're talking about. That's specificity. That's detail. That's stuff that people can chew, digest intellectually, and benefit from. Okay, so you must provide substance and value in the stuff you document. Okay, so basically it's the stuff you learned in grade school: who, what, when, where, how, and why. Okay, so when somebody comes to me and says, I need a Maya LT license, I say, why? And they say, well, my artist needs it to develop, why? Because he needs to create these assets. And why? Well, because my LT is the only thing he knows how to use and he can use it. Aha. So again, be specific, know who, what, when, where, how, and why, and then put that in your documentation. Okay. And while you're writing this stuff, just remember what Ernest Hemingway said, one of the greatest writers of our time. He said the most essential gift for a good writer is a built-in shock-proof shit detector. Okay? So while you're writing something, when you feel like you're bullshitting yourself, and stop what you're doing, right? And fix it. Put in who, what, when, where, how, and why, and then now everybody's cool. Okay? Now everybody who can source that document and look at it and review it and say, I knew I felt like I was doing something wrong. This document tells me how to do it right. I'm cool. All right. It helps make things far more productive and efficient with your time and your resources if you just provide meat, not fluff. So the next thing I ask is, or that I mention is, as I said in the last presentation, was expert judgment is the number one tool in project management. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It means you are going to experts who have done what you're trying to do before. And so they've done it. They've got the wisdom that's been gained from experience. And then you can just sit there and, ask them. Okay. So how do I use substance? How do I use, how do I create this asset? Is there a shortcut to creating this code? You need to ask people these, have we done this? The two questions are, have we done this before? And what have we got? Okay. So if you ask these two questions every time, right? Every time you're doing any task, especially at work, of course, identify somebody who's done what you're trying to do, who's done it before, and then ask them, is there anything I need to know? What problems did you have? How'd you get around those problems, and so on and so forth. Trust me, guys, if you just spend 20 minutes, talking to somebody about this stuff before you take on an hour-long project, guarantee you will save, that 20 minutes more in time. Guarantee it. Okay. Colin Powell, former Secretary of State and, great Iraq war hero and all that stuff, basically said, he said, experts often possess more data than judgment. Okay. So yes, seek expert judgment, but more than that, seek expert wisdom. Okay. And wisdom comes from all right. So find out those people who have the experience that you're looking for, and then go get it. All right. The next thing I suggest is, when you're asking these questions of these experts, you got to ask the right questions, the right way, of the right person. Okay. As the book says, seek and ye shall find. All right. By asking the right questions, etc., you will get the information that you need. Okay. So by asking the right questions, you identify the right stakeholders. By asking the stakeholders the right questions, you get the right needs, wants, and expectations. You get the right needs, wants, and expectations, you get the right requirements and objectives. You get the right requirements and objectives, you can develop the right policies and procedures. You develop the right policies and procedures and you follow them, boom, you got a successful project. Okay? So just remember, leaders ask, followers just talk. Okay, so ask the right questions the right way of the right person. Tony Robbins, he's a big motivational speaker. I'm sure you probably all heard about him. He says successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. So don't be shy. It's okay. Ask questions. All right. The next thing is is my feedback departments. I have two feedback departments. So if you're sitting there listening to me talk, I want you to take your left hand and put your left palm in front of you, face up. Open your hand, put your left palm and face up. That feedback department is constructive criticism. Okay? Constructive criticism is somebody comes to you and says, I have a problem and I have a solution to that problem. Okay? So here's my problem, here's my solution. That's constructive criticism. That's something I can wrap my fingers around and I can use. That adds value to your project and to the discussion. Okay. Now take your right hand and ball it up into a fist. Okay. That's I have a problem with no solution. That's a complaint. So that's the complaint department. Okay. So you choose what department you want to give feedback to and which one you want to receive it from. Okay. Benjamin Franklin said, tart words make no friends. A spoonful of honey will catch more flies than a gallon of vinegar. Okay. So be kind, ask questions, offer solutions if you have problems, and just don't complain. Okay. Complaints are from egos, and egos are not helpful to projects. In fact, I'll tell you this right now. Every single failed project I've ever seen, okay, I could trace the root of the failure of that project to a single ego. Guarantee it. Okay. Oh, we didn't get the supplies on time, so we couldn't finish the project and we ran out of time, blah blah blah. Okay, well, who sent the supplies? Oh, this guy did. So you go and ask him, why didn't you send the supplies? Did you have the supplies? Yeah, we have the supplies. Why didn't you send them? Well, my cousin's business needed those supplies, so I sent it to him. Boom. Okay. So just get the ego out of it. Okay. And always provide constructive criticism. Okay. Now, another thing, a lot of people talk about failure. Okay. They say, oh, you have to fail at things in order to grow. And, a lot of people say, do everything you can to fail. I've seen people tell me that, and I'm like, okay, but wouldn't you rather do everything you can not to fail? And the thing is as a project manager, your job is to finish the project on time and on budget. And with all kinds of shit going on, the last thing you want to do is to fail. Okay. So the smarter you are, SMART, the smarter you are in planning your project and executing that project, then the easier it is for you not to fail. Because every single task that you have is a mini project of its own. And as long as you ask questions, you've got your ego in your pocket, and you get things done on time and under budget, then it all adds up and the whole project gets done that way. Okay. Having said that, to a good project manager, there's no such thing as failure. There just isn't. Okay. Because no matter what you do, you're going to get a result. Okay. No matter what you do, you're going to get a result. Now, that result might not be what you wanted. However, if you learn from that result, how it happened, why it happened, and take that information and learn from it so you don't make the same mistakes in the next project, how can that possibly be a failure? Okay? Because you're ultimately saving yourself and your company resources. Okay? Now, another thing that is related to that is I know it's what shall I say? It's a paradox, but I love both Star Wars and Star Trek. And one of my favorite quote in Star Trek: The Next Generation is when Captain Picard looked at Data and he says, "It is possible to commit no mistakes, still lose. That is not a weakness, that is life." Okay? So, what you need to understand is don't worry about making mistakes, don't worry about losing. Just do a good plan, follow that plan, and then learn as best you can. Okay? And even hell, Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of all time, said, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that a light bulb doesn't work. Okay? Can you imagine 10,000 ways he tried to make a light bulb, for crying out loud? Well, he learned each time, and then now we all enjoy the fruits of his labor. Okay? So, um, the next thing is, I only got two more things. The next thing is, I like to tell people the best project managers are the best plagiarizers. Okay, and I realize we had a big plagiarism issue in the public recently, and I'm like, really? It's like this. Okay, if the first lady had a good speech written for her and said good words and all that, I don't see anything wrong with using those same words again. I do see it's kind of wrong that you don't say that where you got those words from, but nevertheless, if it works, it works. Okay. So let's say, for example, you budget $50,000 to develop your plan. Okay. And through expert judgment, asking the right questions the right way, collecting all your organizational process assets and so forth, you complete your plan. Okay. And you do it in half the time. Okay. So two things now happen. First, you can start your project earlier. Okay. If you budgeted a month to do your plan and you did it in 2 weeks instead, because you asked the right questions and you followed the stuff that I talked about, then now you can start the project 2 weeks earlier, which means now you can finish it 2 weeks earlier. Now, if you can finish it 2 weeks earlier, that means the next project that you're going to be making money on starts 2 weeks earlier. Guess what? You're making more money in the same period of time than you did before. Okay. And then thirdly, or that is thirdly. Okay. So, get all the information you can from similar projects, you know, if go ask the experts. If experts, you never know, you might bump into a guy in the coffee room or something like that, and he might be 60 years old, and you're like, yeah, who's this old fart or whatever, and he asks you, what are you working on? And you say, oh, I'm working on a first person shooter. And he says, oh, I worked on Halo, or I worked on Gears of War, or whatever. And the next thing out of your mouth after you close it needs to be, do you have any documentation you're willing to share? Plain and simple. What can you give me? Have you done this before? What have you got? And then if he has it and he's available and he can give it to you, he's going to give it to you. And now you have a wealth, and I mean a wealth of information at your disposal. Okay. And now you can plagiarize all you want. Okay. Even better, somebody in your company worked on another project in your company, and they have all their bug logs and everything out, and all their solutions to the bugs and all that, and policies and procedures for replicating them. Then go get that. Look at it, and now you just saved yourself and the company a hell of a lot of time and money in order to get something done. Okay. And when you do that, your boss is going to think you're a rock star, and that increases your job security. Okay. And that leads to the last thing, which I always tell people: redundancy in planning, not in effort. Okay. Now, every good plan is going to have redundant information, because we all know that people don't read all the documentation that you give them. Okay. If you write in my 1 month class, they were writing 150 to 200 page project management plans for a five-month game effort. And the thing is nobody's going to read all that. And that was the hard way. I showed them at the end of the course how to do it the easy way, which is like a 15 to 20 page paper. So in any case, you have to write the document. Remember, as I said earlier, you have to write a document that any blithering idiot's going to understand. So you know that they're not going to read the whole thing. So when you read the communications policies and procedures, or the communication management plan, or the scope management plan, or the HR management plan, or whatever, there's going to be some information in there that's going to be redundant throughout the plan. Okay, that's fine. It's better to have that information there than to have the person bugging you incessantly asking you questions that they should know the answers to because they didn't read the damn plan. Okay, or you didn't write a good plan. Okay, so a good plan should offer some redundant information, especially if it's large, and because the stakeholders are only going to read what they want to read, and ultimately, as Rainbow Jangles, who's another pretty crazy cat, he said it's better to be redundant than remiss. Okay, so that's basically all I have to say. I guess some people are having some problems here. Do you have a real-world example of what a successful plan looks like? Yeah, a plan looks like one that results in a good project, a successfully completed project. It doesn't have any look to it. I've done 2-page project management plans. I've done 10,000-page project management plans. So it just whatever works. I mean, if your culture and your company culture is such that you don't want to spend too much time, trust me, some plan is better than nothing. Okay? So, does everybody hear me? I hope everybody's hearing me. Well, sorry about that. So in any case, that's basically where I'm at, and I don't know what to tell you. I've been speaking the same and doing it. Started this an hour ago. All right, so that's basically where I'm at. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you. I've had a lot of practice. That's another thing y'all should do is you should network and get out there and go to local events and speak in front of people and get that out of your system. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Thanks. Appreciate it. Local events, my ass. I'll tell you, in Orlando, we got a ton of them. We have a ton of. No, what do you mean there's no industry in Denmark? You've got one of my competitors out there. There's a game incubator out there. They're going to have tons of things like that going. Give you information on that. Oh, my bad. Oh yeah. Interactive Denmark. If you go to interactivedenmark.dk, then here, let's.
right now, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, afterwards.
Okay, I can hear.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
This is
Can you hear me?
Rich. What's going on?
Rich,
I can.
Rich.
Your voice is a little bit cutting up.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm just sitting here at the desk doing my. But in any case, somebody mentioned that he lives in Denmark. There's no industry there, and I just posted that